And this might be true for any type of artwork, but like some people are addicted to falling in love, but then like once it comes time to sort of like nurture the relationship into a very strong and fortified thing, it gets a little more difficult.
Oh my God, you're speaking to it, man. It's Peter Pan syndrome, is what you're talking about. And actually, it's funny that you bring this up because I know you wanted to ask me about the book that I'm writing.
Yes.
I'm stuck on the final. It's not the final chapter. I intended it for it to go somewhere in the middle of the book, but it may end up somewhere at the end at this point. But originally, it was. I had this whole sequence of ideas, and somewhere in the middle was each chapter was about how the future is going to be a particular way, because evolution is this, in the words of Richard Doyle, a search algorithm for the optimization of entropy production, meaning basically that evolution finds every available opportunity. It creates and then exploits and like fills new niches all the time.
Yeah.
It's like a river finding every way to run down the mountain. It's a thermodynamic process. And so when people talk about the future and they say, oh, the future is going to be like this, then they're forgetting that it's also going to be like
a million other yeah.
And so, so when people say, oh, well, there's going to be more of this in the future, it's like, yeah, but then also people will reject that and form a religion around rejecting that.
Right.
And like, so there's that. So at any rate, this chapter in the book was on how the future is going to be cute and playful, but then also like how the future is going to be sort of like terrifying and ominous. And a big part of it is about the evolutionary pressure that we experience as humans and as social creatures, kind of more generally, to be young in mind through our entire lives, to be flexible in our thinking, because living in society, it creates this sort of recombinant multiplying force.
Yeah.
The cities, for instance, the number of patents that come out of a city scales faster than the number of people living in the city, because two people, you've got two interactions, and then four people, and it's factorial, right? So you've got this 3 times 3 is 9, and 4 times 4 is 16, and so you get this whole thing. Anyway, so the environment that we're creating, people have this thing in the modern era about innovation, like innovation is going to save us. But I talked about this on Brett Kane's 21st Century Vitalism podcast recently. The big thing about the sort of disclaimer, the fine print with innovation is that if you chase that as the goal, then you end up undermining yourself. You end up undermining the systems that support you, because innovation becomes disruptive to everything.
Right.
Like there's such a thing as too much mutation. Like, you can like organisms get cancer, et cetera.
It's the polar, or the poles of like conserving and exploring, or like, innovating, I guess.
Right.
Yeah.
So at any rate, this whole thing is that, like, basically as the future becomes more and more metamorphic, more unpredictable, more just full of possibility, then in order to navigate that landscape, we must become childlike. We must remain unfinished.
Yeah.
And there's something about a human being that you compare to like other primates, and we're basically like adult children.
The neoteny.
Neoteny or pedomorphosis, these terms. And so, it was just me kind of doing this linear extrapolation into the future, saying that the future of human beings is probably that we're going to end up being, even like, assuming we don't destroy ourselves, we'll be more childlike in the future than we are now.
Yeah, because
because
it will be
we
demanded
are,
of us.
yeah, like, I mean, come on, like they talk about adolescence now extending into your late 20s,
Did you
you
say late
know,
30s? Right?
20s.
Oh no.
Yeah, yeah. This is, well, I mean, like that's one of those things where it's like, are my kids going to be going to college at like 35? Or
Right. Yeah.
so, or will college even, our institutions are doing the same thing. Like college itself is sort of like breaking up into a bunch of just sort of certification programs, it seems like,
Yeah.
and so people are just kind of patching stuff together. You came
Right.
out, our parents had a fully formed identity at 18,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's
I
like,
always think about that. Like how our
it's so
generations are
strange.
so different.
And so, yeah, so like follow that trend. And you see this in music too, right? Like the like songs are getting shorter,
Yeah.
songs are getting less complicated, because evolutionarily speaking, it's easier to like squeeze through a narrow hole in the wall, like it's like if you're looking at like a landscape of possibility and you have to kind of thread the eye of a needle,
Yeah.
it's easier to lose parts than it is to like gain parts.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so there's a trend in the like there's a developmental bias in evolution towards simplicity. and
Hmm.
and so like as our it's a complex interplay between, like, yes, our interactions and our environments, and in some way our cognition, generally speaking, like the biosphere is getting more complex, but as it gets more complex, it's putting this pressure on us to kind of maintain certain qualities of our sort of pluripotent embryonic state into adulthood,
Right. Right.
and remain incomplete.